Oh my gosh, it's making me emotional to hear that people get treated like that.
They don't need your shame.
That's so horrible to say to someone.
Yeah, and it's so completely untrue.
Hey, I'm Christina.
I'm Katherine.
I'm Amy.
I'm Lauren.
And
we're Cimorelli.
We are all sisters. We love making music together, and we upload videos on Cimorelli Saturdays at 11 a.m. Eastern Time. Lisa, you guys are wondering, where's Lisa? She is supporting her husband through cancer treatment right now, so please keep their family in your prayers. So we came to you guys today to discuss a very, very heated topic, shall we say?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and we kind of just wanted to say right out the gate, like, we are very aware that this is a super sensitive topic, and I think primarily because it's so common for people to experience SA in our culture, men and women. It's just a really, really vulnerable thing because so many people have been hurt in that way. So we want to be really sensitive of those people in talking about this. And I think that's also why we want to bring this to light because it's a really important topic that affects pretty much every person. You might not agree, you might be on a different side, that's totally okay. But I think it's a really important topic for people to talk about more, especially when you're in the middle on it and you might have a different point of view. So that's kind of one of the things we wanted to say before starting this video.
And when we discuss this topic, we might use more broad words because we're not exactly sure which words you can and can't say on YouTube to get like dinged and whatnot. So we're doing our best here, but sometimes you're gonna have to read between the lines. We're gonna do our best. A really important thing that we do have to say is that everything we're saying is said with zero judgment. Mm-hmm. This does not come from a place of judgment at all. We have made our own decisions in life. Like, we don't need to control your guys' life. We don't need to make your decisions. Like, we have no interest in that. We just have this message that really means a lot to us that we really want to share with you guys. Yeah. But this is zero judgment. Whatever choices you've made in your life, that is totally your business. We fully respect your right to make your decisions. And everything totally comes from a place of love. It's just a really important topic to us. So please, I just hope no one feels judged because we are absolutely not judging you.
Yeah.
Okay, so this was my idea to do this video because, I mean, I haven't really talked about this online in a long time. I feel like we used to talk about it a little more. We've gotten into 2022 at this point. It's like, I've gotten scared to say lots of things because it's just, the culture is just, it's got to a place where it can be scary to say your opinion on anything. You're scared that like the whole world's going to turn against you. And I don't want to be scared to like put my voice out there. We all have voices. You have a voice. I have a voice. We all do. And I believe we should use our voices. And this is a topic that is so important to me, so important to us. So here is where we're coming from. At the way that I see it right now, there seem to be two polar opposite sides on this topic. I haven't seen many people at all coming more towards the middle and explaining that and putting that out there. And I particularly have not seen many people at all who actually still believe in waiting until marriage talk about the toxic side of purity culture. I personally haven't really seen that. It's kind of like if you see those toxic things there, then you need to go to the polar opposite. That's the only thing that's out there for you. Or if you are in that side already and you don't like that side, the only thing left for you is the toxic purity culture.
Yeah, and I think another reason is because a lot of people have been extremely wounded by the toxic purity culture, and they're like, which is very valid. And they're like, I don't want to go back to that. I don't believe that. I don't want to be a part of that. Just disassociate because that hurt me so badly.
Yeah.
And I think that's really valid to feel that way because it's hurtful.
It is really hurtful, and it does end up disrespecting a lot of people.
Okay, so we took extensive notes I have on my phone because there's so much we want to say that we're actually going to do a podcast episode on this, the Cimorelli podcast. I think we're going to take your guys' questions for that to like, guide the conversation. So if you want to see further discussion on this, go to our channel, the Cimorelli podcast, and we will have that one up probably a little bit after this video, but it will be up within a few weeks, I think.
And leave your questions in the comments that you would like to see us talk about as well.
Yeah, and that's another thing I think we should say really quick is like, if you're going to comment, please be kind to other people in the comments. Like, even if you have a strong opinion, you can say that in like a respectful way if you don't agree with someone else.
You don't have to be a jerk.
Please be respectful.
Okay, so we are going to talk about toxic purity culture. Something you guys have never seen us talk about. And a big reason is I don't want you to think I believe that stuff. You may have thought, oh, I know the Cimorelli girls have worn purity rings. I know they've talked about waiting until marriage. I bet they believe all of these other things automatically. And it's not true. We do not believe all the things you've seen out there from other
toxic
people.
Purity culture.
From other people who believe in waiting until marriage. We don't all think the same. We don't all have the same beliefs. So let's talk about some of the bad beliefs. Oh, by the way, Amy is wearing a purity ring right now.
Yeah.
I didn't even know that.
I don't wear it every day, but every once in a while, you know.
I had one, I wore it all the way
I like
until...
my cross jewelry.
I had one that I wore all the way until my wedding. And I thought it was fun to replace it. I liked that personally. We'll get into that.
I don't know. Yeah.
We're going to get into
I
it.
wore one, but then people kept thinking I was married, and I was like, well, I'm trying to find a man. So then I put it on my other hand.
Is
Literally, people at the in the airport, I would be talking to them. They're like, "Oh, are you married?" And I'm like, "No, security ring."
That's a really interesting point. Let's get into some of the toxic things we have seen. The internet has shown us. We have seen in real life about purity culture. And since we have moved to the South, we're now in Tennessee. I've learned and seen a lot more than I had seen in California, more firsthand of some of the really toxic things that exist. Number one, we have seen submit to your husband being taken way too far.
Yeah, I feel like people read that and they just read that one sentence. They don't read like everything else that the Bible even says about like marriage and how the wife should be and how the man should be. And they just think that that means, oh, I'm supposed to submit to my husband, so I have to do whatever he wants to, whenever he wants, just give him my body free reign. And if I say no, that's a sin. But that is wrong. And that is really unhealthy.
Yeah.
And that's not what that verse means.
Yeah.
There's so many things, especially like if you go back to the really famous Corinthians verse of like, love is patient, love is kind. Like that applies to the man and the woman. They're both, and personally, I think that the things in the Bible, like especially if you read the rest of the verse of husband or wives submit to your husbands, then it's saying like, and like husbands, you need to be loving your wives as your own body. Like it's a whole metaphor for the church.
Yeah,
and I think it's very much it's an equal thing. Like you're supposed to be loving each other equally. And you have to, like, I don't know, there is sort of like a different role thing, like, I guess you could say leadership or whatever, but that doesn't mean that one is more important or more in charge than the other. They're both equals. They bring different things to the table, but they're both important and equal and supposed to respect each other and treat each other with, going back to the Corinthians verse, patience, kindness, all those things that make up real love.
Yeah, because you are so, like... You should feel free to disagree with your partner and free to use your voice and to say how you think and how you feel and how you deserve to be treated to them.
So it's not very patient or kind as a husband. Just demand your wife has to do whatever you want whenever you want.
Yeah.
Not patient or kind, so it doesn't really go together.
Your wife is not a second-class citizen that just doesn't have a voice. Like, that's really messed up.
Next point. Very one-sided. Mm-hmm. So much purity culture literature out there, talking points, whatever, it puts all the pressure on women or girls, really. It's like 11-year-olds.
Yeah, it puts it on young women.
It's all on girls. Like, don't distract a boy. Don't get his attention, whatever. Don't make him think something.
Well, yeah, and it's like this thing that, like, oh, boys will be boys, and that's just how they are. They're just these ravenous beasts that just can't control themselves, and that's fine. That's just it.
Yeah, that's not true.
I think it's also insulting to boys.
It
Having
is.
a son myself, to be like, to be putting that message out, oh, a boy is just a wild animal with no self-control. Therefore, women need to do all this stuff, whatever, because the boy is this wild animal. No. I think we can think higher of men. We can expect more of them. We can actually have more respect for them than to say they're just a wild animal and they just have no control.
Yeah, and I don't appreciate how it makes women feel as though it's your fault if a man disrespects you or thinks of you in a certain way. Yeah. It's not your fault regardless of what you're wearing or who you're it's not your fault. There's equal respect to be given on both sides. It's not just a woman's problem how men treat her.
Yeah, I think also as a mom of sons, it's just I want my sons to grow up like respecting women no matter how they're dressed, how they look. All women are like, you respect them, and that is it.
Next point. I've seen a lot of people make it seem like your worth as a woman or even like as a Christian is determined by how pure you are or have been, and based on what you have to offer a man, you in relation to a man, who you are to the man going to be your husband, whatever. So it's like if you have done X, Y, and Z, you're suddenly worth a lot less. And also, there's certain things you can do to just be worth more to the man. When in reality, our worth is never changing. It just doesn't change. We can't do things to like earn more or lose it. That's really dangerous and really scary to think too.
Yeah, there's like this lack of like respect for just a human and like the dignity that you have. Just any person has that really high dignity just as a person, no matter what you do.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're a child of God, and that's your identity, and that never changes, no matter what you do or don't do.
I've seen people talk about these things of, like, the candy bar thing, where they, like, take off a piece.
Yeah, like, you sit in a circle as, like, a 12 or 13-year-old. I heard someone saying this happened to them, and, like, with their parents and, like, family friends, and they go around a circle with, like, a Hershey's bar, each person takes off a piece of the chocolate, and they're like, see, and at the end, there's nothing left. That's what happens when you give yourself away. Like, you don't exist.
You give yourself away to these other boys before marriage, and then at marriage, there's nothing left for your husband. Number one. Number two, I've seen where you, like, crumble up a piece of paper. It's the same idea, and then it's like, when you make this mistake, it's like crumbling the piece of paper. And then, even though we can try to flatten the paper out again, we can never ever take those lines out, take those wrinkles out.
That is like so contrary to Christian belief. Like, what about forgiveness? What about redemption? That is literally like one of the central themes of Christianity is forgiveness and redemption, and that just makes no sense. Like, if you're a Christian, you should believe that any person, no matter what, you can be redeemed. Like, that's why we have Jesus.
Yeah, and that's also, like, oh my gosh, to make me emotional to hear that people get treated like that. Like, you're not some piece of, like, trash or, like, some arbitrary freaking candy. Like, you are a human being. Usually this happens to women of immense value, and you do not deserve to be devalued by the people around you like that. So if that's ever happened to you and people have spoken to you and made you feel like that, like, I am so deeply sorry, because that is so completely inappropriate and also violating. Especially if you're having such a young age. You should not be treated like that ever. That's just completely inappropriate. I just can't even believe people do that.
Yeah, and that's another issue, is that every time I hear people talk about, like, purity, they never talk about SA, which is crazy, because how high the statistics are for how many people get SA'd in their life. And then things like this saying, like, oh, you have nothing left to give, you can never be repaired. Like, I'm emotional too. It's like, that's so horrible to say to someone.
Yeah, and it's so completely untrue. You're not broken and you're not used up. You can't just be used up as a person. It's not real.
Yeah, it's not your fault.
I think a lot of parents will be, like, so kind of extreme, like what we're talking about, as a way to, like, shame. I don't think they come from a bad place necessarily, but they're kind of using shame as a way to control their teenagers, because I think parents are terrified of their teen getting pregnant, getting someone else pregnant. They're terrified of their teen, like,
making them look bad.
Doing things that make them look bad.
Yeah, bring, like, shame on the family.
I can imagine where they're coming from, but, I mean, as a kid and a parent, like, we're not the same. Like, your kid is kind of a reflection of you in a way, but they're their own person. They're not you. They're not a reflection of your moral status, whatever the heck you're thinking. It's that whole thing. First, that's a problem in itself. That's a problem. But secondly, it's also like teen pregnancy, the worst possible thing you could do, the biggest shame that could ever happen. Like, excuse me? That's another problem I have. Then, once you're a teen mom and well, yeah, I think once you're a teen mom and you're struggling to do one of the hardest things in the world, be a mother, and you have all this immense shame placed on you, you're struggling to do this really difficult thing, and people are like turning against you, seeing you as this horrible sinner, and then maybe like looking at your family in this way. The whole thing, that's a whole other thing, teen pregnancy. We won't get into that too much right now, but that's the thing I'm really passionate about. Like, they're pregnant. It's not the time to shame them, put them down. There's never the time. Yeah. But that's especially not the time. They're carrying this baby now. They need help. They need community.
They need support.
They don't need your shame.
Yeah.
And shaming people does not work. It doesn't change their behavior. If there's it's just any random parents watching this. Shaming your child doesn't make them.
Let's talk about the statistics.
Want to do what you want them to do.
Yeah, I just saw the statistics on.
Yeah, I can't remember the exact number, but I remember the statistics of people that actually wait till marriage is actually very low.
It's like zero, basically.
Very, very low.
It's only a few
people.
So
clearly what people are doing is not really
It doesn't even work.
Might need to change the approach a little.
This is a little bit different, or this is just something that I thought we guys were speaking, but like, speaking about topics in such a shameful way really discourages people that have been SA'd and been hurt or taken advantage of from speaking up and from getting help and from getting justice, because that is unjust that people would do that to you.
And that person, that predator, is out in the world. They're probably doing it to other people.
And like
perpetuating.
Yeah, it perpetuates it. And it also gives people grounds to kind of protect people in that way, but they don't deserve to be protected in that way if they're hurting you. So if you're watching this and someone is hurting you, you need to speak up. And I know that it's so difficult, but you need to speak up, and you have every right to speak up and to feel and to get the justice you deserve for being wronged.
And another thing parents do is oftentimes, and like I'm saying this again, I think most parents, they come from a good place. As a parent myself, like I think they have good intentions, like I said, but I just think it's like generations and generations of sexual shame we're talking about here. So it's a hard thing to just like undo like that. So I think it just gets passed down. It's like their mom did the same thing to them, so they're doing it to you. They're like, that's just the way it is, you know? So I think oftentimes a lot of parents also, they just don't really explain anything, and they're like, oh, the school might like teach them some stuff. Like we just did an episode of the Cimorelli podcast on things you didn't know about your period, and we went like in depth about lots of stuff, and a lot of people were commenting like, I didn't know like any of this stuff. I'm really glad you guys are sharing this. I was just reading the comments. It was really cool, but it's just sad because when I got pregnant at 29, I think I talked to so many people and so many women like way older than me about things having to do with pregnancy and fertility and such, and I was shocked at how many of them didn't understand how certain things work. Like, shocked. There are so many people out there who don't understand like very simple things about fertility, getting pregnant, etc. And I think it's because a lot of parents,
because it's shameful.
It's shameful. They don't want to explain these things to their kids because they think if they don't explain it, it will stop their kid from doing anything, right? But that's not how it works. I think we need to be empowered about, especially as women, we need to be empowered about our bodies and like to learn,
knowing how they work,
to learn about our own health and how things work. We shouldn't have this like deep shame. We can't discuss anything. We can't talk about this stuff. Even I talk about different things about just about fertility and stuff, and it's like sometimes, or like pelvic floor health, and people will just be kind of like, it's a little awkward, but
it is a little awkward, but it needs to be talked about. I don't think it
shouldn't be awkward at all. I am yelling it everywhere I go, but it shouldn't be awkward.
Christina in the grocery store.
Literally.
There's also this kind of idea that like women are not sexual beings. Like, oh, men are these wild animals, but women are not. You don't have one thought, one feeling, one urge ever. But then suddenly you're married, boom, it's your wedding night. Now it's time to just go wild and free. And now you have to be like your husband's greatest fantasy.
Yeah.
That is so much pressure.
That's literally what people think.
Pressure, and it's dehumanizing. It's devaluing a woman. It's devaluing any person that is viewing themselves in that way. You're not an object to be enjoyed by another person arbitrarily, even if you're in a marriage with them.
You know what? Yeah. That's not even actually just a purity culture thing. That's actually just a cultural thing that people will sometimes put out there, take on. You'll see it, like the innocent girl, whatever, and then she's supposed to not be innocent anymore, whatever. That's actually not even just a religious thing as well. Not even just a toxic purity culture thing.
Yeah, and I got married 2.5 years ago, and I can't tell you how many of my friends who are like religious as well that I've had this conversation with where they're like, it's just like the purity culture is like bad, 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 bad. Oh, and now you're married, so now it's good. But it's like they end up having a lot of issues, dysfunction in their sexual relationships in their marriage because there was so much shame and secrecy surrounding sexuality.
It wasn't talked about.
And now it's like, oh, now it's good.
It's
like, and even when you're married, I feel like there's not really a lot of people talking about it within marriage.
Yeah.
Like how to have a good experience. Like, especially when you came from such a toxic culture, like, you put so much on. I mean, I would say men and women. I think, actually, I've seen a lot of people saying their husbands had this issue, too. Who, their husbands maybe were really wanting to do the right thing, and they were raised in, like, a very Christian household, and then they felt a lot of shame about it, too. And that can cause a lot of issues. I mean, we didn't even go into, like, pornography and all these other things. Like, there's a lot of issues that come from this. So it's very damaging. I think one of the biggest things that we're trying to just get across and, like, make the point of in this video is, like, these two polar opposites dehumanize people very intensely. Like the toxic purity culture side is like, oh, you're only worth like being this, wife on a pedestal
object.
An object. It's objectifying. The other side, you could say,
object for your husband's pleasure.
Yeah, object for your husband's pleasure. The other side, though, you could say is like, if you take it way too far in the other direction, then you're basically just saying, well, sex is meaningless and you just do whatever you want with whoever you want, whenever you want. There's no boundaries, there's no purpose, there's no meaning to it. And I think no matter who you are, I think as a human being, maybe you disagree with me, that's okay, but I think innately we humans know sexuality is important. This is a very, like, that's a side of yourself that no matter how much you, like, convince yourself not to, it's important. It's, I would say sacred. It's a very private, vulnerable side of yourself, and it can be very violating if it's not in the right context. So, like, I think that's one of the things that I personally would love to get out there more is just, like, for people to know that sex is important. It is meaningful. Like, it has a purpose. Like, from my point of view as a Christian, like, as a Catholic specifically, like, it's beautiful and good. And one resource that's been amazing for me, because I feel like I had a lot of those toxic purity kind of, not that I would say, I don't even think that our family, like, really was like that. I feel like my mom wasn't super like that. But I feel like just growing up in that culture with, like, friends and, like, books and all these things that sort of made it very shaming. A resource that I found very healing was Theology of the Body, which is by St. John Paul II. And he just talks about the goodness, the beauty, the purpose, the meaning of sexuality from a Catholic perspective. And I found that to be incredibly healing going into marriage and having that knowledge. So that's a resource that I recommend for anyone that's curious on that. But I think just you have to remember, like, both sides are dehumanizing.
Okay, so now that we touched on some of those, there's definitely more out there, but that was what we narrowed it down to for now. We want to go into, we're going to pose some questions to you guys, okay? To think about, just to think about that.
Yeah, because I think that this is such an important decision that every person has to make in their life in some regard. And a lot of times we don't even know what to think of to make decisions or how to feel. We don't know how to figure out what we personally believe and how we view things for our own paths.
Okay, so here's a question. Kath was kind of touching on this when she was just talking. Is consent all that matters? Is sex meaningful? Question. Is it meaningful? Why or why not? I heard someone say this, like, high five analogy before. I don't remember where I heard this, but it's like, if someone gives you a high five without your consent, it doesn't really affect you that much. Maybe like, why did you touch my hand? But it's not really like a life-altering, soul-crushing experience. But if you are essayed, that's like a life-altering, soul-crushing experience. Does that mean that sex is meaningful or powerful or whatever word, does that mean it's not meaningless? There's something more to it. Question to think about. So people often say like, oh, it doesn't have to mean anything like emotionally. It was nothing, whatever. Do you agree with that? Is there really no emotional depth, power, anything like that behind it? Like, can you just turn it on and off? Does that work for you? If you've been living your life like that, has it been working for you? Just something to think of. I don't know the answer. Like I said, I wait till marriage. I don't know the answer to that, but I want to give you guys options of like, I want to give you guys things to think about, because I don't think this conversation is really being had. I think the other side we're talking about, which is just kind of like two consenting adults, period, the end. I think there's more than enough of that. Like, we all know that argument, right? We all know that argument. It's the most popular thing that exists. It's what most people do statistically. It's in like every movie, TV show, your conversation with your friends, college, high school, whatever. That's out there everywhere. But we want to kind of bring another conversation in to this world besides the far side of toxic purity culture. We want to bring up more stuff because I think it deserves to be talked about more, but not just talked about in the one current culturally popular opinion.
Yeah, and another point of view to consider is like, I've heard this from a lot of different, like I've listened to a lot of podcast interviews with like sex therapists and even just marriage counselors in general, where they'll say in marriages, when people are having problems, one of the biggest ways that comes to the surface is through their sexual relationship. That like shows
it's a reflection?
Lot. They say it's a reflection of the emotional connection. I think that's just a really interesting thing to think about, like how I personally think it's like a holistic point of view. Your body, mind, soul, spirit, they're all combined. You are one entity as a person. You can't just like isolate them. What happens to your body affects your mind and your heart and your soul. It's all one thing together.
That's something really interesting to think about. Like, think about that for yourself.
That's like when you experience a trauma. It might be an emotional trauma. Maybe no one even like touched you, but you feel it in your body. Your body shakes when you retell the story. You feel a heaviness in your chest. Your body remembers.
You can develop like debilitating physical symptoms from an emotional trauma.
Yeah. I just personally don't think you can sever emotional and sexual. I think they're very intertwined.
That's a great thing to think about. If consent is the only thing that matters, why are there so many consensual experiences that leave people feeling hurt or used? And I can even say this for myself before marriage with guys where it's like, I'm still waiting until marriage. We still had like our various experiences of whatever it is, right? Even like a kiss could be totally consensual kiss, and you can end up at the end of that experience, you can still have that experience and feel used or whatever it was. You can have an experience. It doesn't have to be sex. It can just be whatever it is. Why can that happen? That's really something to think about. If it's consensual and that's all that matters, why did it hurt? Why did I feel used? Why do I feel horrible now? I totally consented. Looking back, I would still say, yeah, I consented. Why is that?
Yeah, and unfortunately, that is something you have to be aware of, is like, there's a lot of people out there, men and women, who use sex as like a power thing, or they'll also just use it as like a manipulation thing. Like they will say what they think you want to hear to get to what they want, but they don't actually love or care about you. I personally think that's one of the biggest reasons that I am glad I waited till marriage. It feels like it kind of, not perfectly, it's not perfect. That can obviously still happen if you're waiting, but like a lot of times it can weed out some of the people that want to use you. And you know that they're there, that they want to be with you because of like your whole person. Not that that's a guarantee, and not that it always works, but it can help in that way.
And that's another thing. When I was thinking through everything, like making my decisions as a teen and whatnot, it just seemed more practical to me to wait until marriage for a lot of reasons. First of all, like pregnancy, like that's more practical for me to get pregnant in marriage than out of it. That's more practical for me in my life. It's more practical just for dating for me because it was kind of interesting to see guys' responses and reactions when I told them I'm waiting until marriage. It was really interesting. And it was a positive experience for me, dating and waiting until marriage, and seeing like it did weed out guys for me and their intentions. That was helpful for me. And also when you think of like the effect it has like on you mentally, if you look into like the neuroscience of it, I guess, and you look at the hormones and everything, it does make it more difficult to make decisions that you wanted to make even, or that you're proud of, that you feel good about. It's harder to do that when you're under the influence of hormones. It is harder to make those decisions. So that was more practical for me for dating as well, as there's a lot more reasons, but that isn't what this video is, but there's a lot more reasons I could think of. And we mentioned purity rings earlier. I don't think they're bad or something, anything like that. But I think sometimes they are really like misused and almost like weaponized in a way, which is really messed up, especially once again, these young girls. Mm-hmm. It's mostly girls who wear them, by the way. So when I wore mine, I made that decision. I chose it. My mom she never even, I don't know if she even knew about them. She never told us about purity rings.
I don't remember her mentioning that.
I don't think she knew about them. I wanted one.
But I think it's more of an evangelical
I
thing.
liked the idea of replacing it with the wedding ring. I personally liked that. So when I was like 19, I had told my boyfriend, Nick, who is now my husband, that I wanted one. And then he ended up getting me one for like an anniversary or something.
That's cute.
But I made that decision. It wasn't forced upon me. And I think that's where it goes wrong in toxic purity culture. A question people ask themselves often.
Everyone has to ask themselves at one point.
Everyone has to ask themselves this, and it's in movies, TV shows. It's probably Googled millions and millions and millions of times.
Probably lots of WikiHow articles.
How do you know if you're ready? So for me, obviously the answer was when I'm married, but the question is, how do you know if you're ready? What does being ready mean? I think sometimes people answer like when you're in a loving relationship for however amount of time. But then once again, what does being ready mean? And why is that the answer is a good question to ask yourself. I think the problem is that we don't ask ourselves some of these things because culturally certain things are popular. Like things are always changing culturally, right? Like 10 years ago, very different than now. And right now, there's current popular things when it comes to sex, right? And I think when whatever's popular is not questioned very often, we will sometimes just like go along with it and just do it because it's like what all of our friends are doing and like they're all doing it. It seems fine, whatever. Let's just do what our friends are doing, right? You know? But I think this really deserves to be questioned. And I mean, this is your life. This is a really important thing, a really important part of your life. And I think it deserves a lot of thought. It deserves to be very well thought out. And it deserves care.
Yeah, and I would like to say that I really do respect that you get a lot of pressure in life from this topic and in dating in general, but also like to be doing certain things at a certain age or to be at certain points.
Oh my gosh, yes.
You get a lot of pressure from so many different angles, from the media, from maybe your friends at school, maybe just school in general, maybe the internet, who knows. But like there is a lot of pressure, but you are walking your own path. Nobody else has to go to bed at night thinking about the decisions that you made unless you harmed them. But if in your own personal life, in your very own personal life, you have to go to bed at night and look yourself in the mirror. And I would love for you to be like comfortable and happy with the decisions that you have made for your own self, not for anybody else, but for you, because you deserve that. You deserve that.
That's a really good point. When I was a teenager, I didn't know I was going to wait till marriage or have that decision until I was like 16 or 17, I want to say. I didn't really have an idea. And all I knew was I was reading all these teen magazines. Okay, this is like 2004 or 5. And all I knew was you lose your virginity by like senior year. That's what I knew from magazines. This is normal. This is what you do. This is your timeline, by the way. There was a lot of pressure. Like, this is what you have to do, or else, like, you're a loser.
They literally make movies about people trying to, like,
or else
do that before they go to college or whatever.
Or else it's like, you're not appealing to men. Like, this, you know what? It's like a measure of, like, how appealing to men you are.
Yeah.
If you're like... Not that you guys believe that, but I'm just saying that's kind of what media...
That's kind of what is insinuated, but once again, you as a person have your own unique value, and you have to make your own decisions about your life.
Let's take the pressure off of literal children, by the way.
Yeah.
Like a 14-year-old, you're a child.
Yeah.
There should be no pressure on you and no expectation of this timeline that you better lose your virginity by, or else you're a loser or whatever. It's really messed up. That's a really good point.
You're not going to regret thinking decisions like this through very deeply, and just taking the time for yourself to figure out what you think and how you're going to be comfortably living your very own personal life, because nobody else gets to live that for you. It's just you.
So another good question to ask yourself then is, would my dating life be easier, and would it be more practical for me to wait until marriage? Possibly. It's probably something you may have never asked yourself that before. Would it make your life easier? Yeah,
what does it look like in these different ways? And how do you feel about it?
So you guys, to wrap this topic up, I'm trying to ignore like thinking about anyone who's going to leave a hate comment or be rude or any of that stuff. I'm trying to ignore all that. I'm just trying to talk directly to you who's watching this, who is like thirsting for something more, and you're feeling like maybe you're on this side of the polar opposites, or maybe you're on this side. You could be on either side of what we mentioned, the polar opposites. And you could be like, this doesn't sit well with me. It doesn't feel right. I'm really looking for something more. I don't like the way my life has been going in this area, and I want something different. I just don't know what I want. There are so many resources out there, so many different things so much you can do research on it and learn more about. Katherine was mentioning some great stuff as well. I just want to encourage you to start this journey for yourself. To say like, I deserve this. This is worth looking into. I want to see like what I really think. If I just strip away all the expectations and current culture and my friends or my family or whatever, like strip it all away and say like, I want to find the truth. I want to find what is meaningful, what is going to help my life have purpose. I want to feel respected. I want to respect myself. I want to respect others. What does that mean to you? You have to go on that journey and figure that out. So I just want to empower you on that journey, that you deserve it. This is your life, like Amy's saying. This is your life. You look yourself in the mirror every night. You live with the outcomes of your decisions. And you deserve more than just like a meaningless existence. If that's where you're at in life, you deserve more than that. And you deserve to find answers. If you're searching right now, you deserve to find those answers. Go on that journey and see where it takes you.
Yeah, and I just want to add, like, if you're watching this, you are a Christian, you do want to wait till marriage, like, you believe that, then I say, like, more power to you, and it's okay to be, like, to be confident in that, because I feel like there's a lot of people that put that decision down or misunderstand it. I know I was definitely like, there was some derogatory things that were said.
That's rude.
To me, about me, people I dated.
Yeah, and that is completely inappropriate, by the way. Mm-hmm. Do not be making those comments about like people in any regard.
You're a prude or whatever. It's like, it's okay to want to wait till marriage. It's okay to
be different.
Like, and also, if you want to wait till marriage, but you just had such a bad experience with the toxic purity culture, like, you don't have, if you want to wait till marriage, you don't have to associate with that part of it. Mm-hmm. Like, you can do it because you believe this is what God's design for sexuality and marriage is. This is what I believe that God is calling me for. That's really why I did it. I felt like God was calling me to wait till marriage. I'm very happy that I did. I'm not judging anyone that didn't. Like, but if you want to, I just want to say, I like, more power to you, and to be confident in that. And it's okay to let go of all the negative side of it and just be like, I'm doing this, and doesn't mean that I'm like shaming other people or like taking on all this toxic shame from the purity culture, because you don't have to do that, is what I'm trying to say.
All right, that was
a lot to think about.
That was quite the topic. I hope that we were able to connect with you guys, like touch some hearts.
Even just to give you some questions to like just think about and like examine your life a little more in any way.
I hope it all came across in the way that we intended. Like I said earlier, just a place of love, no judgment at all.
No judgment at all.
We know that most of you do not have the same beliefs as us at all. We know you're going to have totally different life experiences than us. And we have like the utmost respect for everyone as a person. We respect everyone, and I hope it came across in a good way, the way that we meant it. Have discussions in the comments section. Keep it respectful. Or else we'll just delete you because that's rude.
Yeah, we just really want to make this video a place where people can question things and be safe and feel safe to ask questions. To
let's make it a safe space.
Guys. We want people to feel like they can think about things and no one's gonna harass them for it and no one's gonna be rude to them, because you deserve a safe space in your life to process things and to think about the way you want to be for your life and your path, because it's so important and beautiful. So if you have questions and comments, we'll probably be in the comments. I know you will be. Replying to people, answering questions. Feel free to just ask things or just...
Oh, we're going to make our podcast. So we may take some of those questions and turn them into topics for that podcast. So if you want more, Cimorelli Podcast, link to the description. The video will not be up right when this one is up, but keep an eye on, subscribe to that channel. Join our Patreon for all the podcast episodes, and this episode will be up a few weeks later, maybe a month, maybe a few weeks, something like that.
Yes.
All right, guys. It's the heaviest topic we've covered in a long...
I think
we haven't covered heavy stuff in a while because...
Especially not on our YouTube,
I was too scared, but that me has been left behind.
Yes. I don't know. I just think it's so important that everyone knows how valuable they are and how much they deserve to feel respected and safe in this world.
And your dignity as a person never changes.
It never changes.
It doesn't matter if everyone in your life has treated you like you have no dignity. That doesn't change it. You still have it equal across everyone. Men and women.
Yes. Everyone is just so deserving of love and dignity, and you're of such high worth. So just know that that's what we want to leave you with today.
All right. We've said it all. Check out everything in the description.
Thanks for watching. We love the Sis Fam. How to not feel hopeless in life regarding romantic relationships.
It's gonna change,
and you gotta embrace where you are.